As an eager adventurer who dreams of becoming a legend, you will embark on a journey of 10 quests to defeat the Colossi menacing the land and free their captives. During your travels, you'll earn the respect of and recruit other fighters by defeating them in battle. Each quest has its climax with a high-stakes battle against the Colossus that, if you win, will earn you fame and glory. Even after you've retired, the other inspired members of your team will fight on to finish what you started and make your dream a reality. Hello, my name is Jalen, and today I will teach you how to play the game I've designed, Elemental Challenge. Elemental Challenge is a push-your-luck card game for exactly one player. The game can take anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, but luckily it can be played in multiple sessions with breaks in between the quests that each take no longer than 10 minutes. One of Elemental Challenge's main selling points is that anyone can play it so long as they have 2 decks of standard playing cards with different backs, at least 5 d6 dice, and the helpful reference sheets that I have in the description of this video. The goal of the game is to recruit fighters, then fight enemies to earn fame, the scoring system of the game, and repeat as the game gets increasingly harder with each quest. Once you get the hang of it, the goal of the game will shift more from winning to getting a better score each time. My personal record is 99 fame. Elemental Challenge does not use 2s or jokers, so remove them from both decks. Next, pick one deck to be the world deck and organize it by number, with 3 being the lowest and ace being the highest. Additionally, remove from the world deck all of the captives according to this list, and set them aside by the other deck, which is called the Colossus deck. You will not use all of the cards in the Colossus deck, so you can put away any cards not used for the Colossi shown on this list. If you plan on playing Elemental Challenge frequently, I recommend marking which enemies are from which quest to make setup much easier. To finish the setup of all Colossi for the rest of the game, simply put one of the captives taken from the world deck in front of each of the Colossi they belong to, again from this list. In the space in front of you, you'll have your team. It can hold up to 5 cards, which from now on we'll refer to as fighters. But to start, choose to either have a 3 of clubs or 3 of hearts. Near where you keep your team, leave an area for 3 fighters, which you will be able to have on backup. To the right of your team, you will put the Discovery deck, from which you'll draw fighters to recruit, and to the right of that, leave the Colossus deck, which by the way, can always be looked at to see what upcoming Colossi you will have to face. Above where you have your team is the village. It will start out empty. The Discovery deck that I just mentioned is made up of cards from the World deck, which should be around the same strength as your team. To ensure that fairness, you will have to calculate your team average by adding up the highest and lowest number of fighters on your team and dividing the sum by 2, round up. Then the Discovery deck will contain all cards from the World deck with the number 1 higher, 1 lower, and equal to that team average. As your team gets stronger, the fighters you can recruit from the Discovery deck will too, which is good since through the rounds the Colossi will also be stronger, having higher number cards and more cards. On the first turn of the game though, the Discovery deck will only contain the remaining 3s and 4s from the World deck. During the traveling phase, you will have 3 recruitment battles to try to earn the respect of other fighters to get them to join your team. Before you can do so, you have to understand some basics of battling. The space in front of you is where you have your team. Although it starts out with only 1 card, it can hold up to 5. The rightmost card on your team is your Challenger, which is the only card on your team that can attack and be attacked. During a battle, if you use the swap attack, where your Challenger is defeated, you will need to pick any of the other fighters on your team to become your new Challenger. One thing to note that probably won't come up in the beginner game is, your team can only have 3 special fighters, which is referring to all jacks, queens, kings, or aces, and on top of counting towards your special fighter limit, you can only have 1 ace on your team. When you fight, you'll need to know some basic information about your fighters. A fighter is defeated if it has damage on it, which you'll mark with dice or another substitute, that's higher than or equal to its hit points, or HP. A fighter's HP is equal to its number, while jacks, queens, and kings have 11, 12, and 13 HP respectively. The ace actually only has 10 HP. This can all be checked in the card statistics table found in the description, but understanding this rule can save you time not having to look back and forth. The next thing you'll want to know about is the fighter's element. It is decided based on its suit, so spades are electric, hearts are fire, clubs are grass, and diamonds are water. Certain elements have an advantage against others, and when your fighter has an advantage, its attacks do 3 more damage. Based on the number of your fighter, it will also have one or more classes. The reason behind card classes can be found in the formula sheet, but just know that they can have various benefits for that fighter. The benefits of the classes are all taken account for on the statistics spreadsheet, besides the wizard class, which lets the fighter not take extra damage at a disadvantage. Each fighter has the same 3 attacks that do damage proportional to its number, and their damage and odds of succeeding differ based on their class. To make it easy, you can just check the statistics spreadsheet, but if you really want to understand why attacks do a certain amount of damage, you can check the formula sheet. The first of the attacks is the basic attack, that will always work, meaning you don't have to roll a dice for it, but it doesn't do all too much damage. Your elemental attack, on the other hand, does a high amount of damage, but it doesn't always work, meaning you have to roll a dice and see if it was equal to or above the dice odds. Refer to the statistics spreadsheet, and you also lose some HP yourself from recoil damage. This is also calculated for you on the statistics spreadsheet. Your last attack, the swap attack, will probably not be used as much, but it's just as important, as on top of doing a small amount of damage, it also lets you swap your challenger with any other fighter on your team, but keep the damage on the old challenger. There are a few other notable things you'll want to know about your cards, but they will be explained later. Now you are ready to have your first battle. Each recruitment you will draw the top card of the discovery deck. Your challenger will always have the first turn. On your turn, you will first pick to use one of your challenger's 3 attacks that we just discussed. And then, unless it's your basic attack that always works, you will have to roll a dice. If the number shown on the dice is equal to or higher than the attack's dice odds, found as always on the statistics spreadsheet, then the attack succeeded, and you'll resolve it as I will explain shortly. If the attack didn't succeed, you have to pick a different attack to use that you haven't rolled for yet this turn. If neither your elemental attack nor your swap attack succeeded, you have to use your basic attack. After you've picked an attack, make sure to also check to see if you have the advantage on the spreadsheet, and if so, do 3 extra damage. Now to resolve your attack. Each fighter has shield, which serves as a buffer for damage before HP is lost. Every time a challenger is attacked, you'll subtract the amount of damage done by the attacked challenger's shield. So when you resolve your attack now, first subtract the damage by your opponent's shield, then if the remaining damage is higher than 0, it's marked with a dice to indicate HP lost. At this point, also take recoil damage or swap your challenger if necessary. When you swap, you can actually forfeit the battle instead of swapping your challenger. This still counts as one of the 3 recruitment battles. After you've done your attack, your opponent will do its attack. It simply will roll a dice. Then if the number rolled is equal to or higher than its fighter's elemental attack dice odds plus 1, it will use its elemental attack. Otherwise, it uses its basic attack. Besides the picking of its attacks, the opponent fighter's attack goes through the same process of adding additional damage from an advantage, then subtracting the damage done to the attack challenger by its shield, before marking the remaining damage with dice. Both players will take turns using attacks until one challenger is defeated. In the rare case that both challengers are defeated on the same turn, because one of them defeated themselves with recoil damage, the winner is whichever challenger has a higher number. If it's still a tie, whichever challenger has the higher suit wins. If you won the battle, regardless if there was a tiebreaker, the opponent fighter joins your team. Additionally, if you defeated a jack, queen, king, or ace earn +2, 3, 4, or 5 fame respectively. If you lost, however, you have to lose fame equal to the worth of your challenger. Then return the fighter back to the discovery deck. Luckily, you don't have to lose fame until the third quest, but if you ever have negative fame, immediately lose the game. Before every battle, whether it's a recruitment or the Colossus battle, you go into the preparation phase. There are a couple optional actions you may perform in this phase, and some mandatory actions that have to be done. You may perform any number of the optional actions and in any order before moving on to the mandatory actions. The 4 optional actions are reorganize, train, retire, and in the full game, shop. The reorganize action allows you to move any number of fighters from your team to your backup and vice versa. After the reorganization of your team, you can still only have up to 5 fighters, 3 special fighters, and 1 ace on your team, while your backup can have only up to 3 fighters. The train action can only be used once per quest, and it allows you to send one of your fighters to the village and get a fighter from the village back that's at most 3 stronger than the fighter you sent. The shop action will be explained in the full game rules video, so now I'll explain the retire action. Send a fighter on your team or backup to the village, then earn fame equal to that fighter's worth found on the statistics spreadsheet, -2. When you retire a captive that hasn't ever been in the village, you get fame equal to its worth without subtracting 2. When you're done with the optional actions, it is mandatory to update the discovery deck. To do so, check your team average and set the discovery deck accordingly, or don't change it at all if it isn't needed. Then shuffle the discovery deck. Make sure to also heal all fighters on your team by removing any remaining dice left over from the previous battle. Before a Colossus battle, you have to return all cards in the village to either the discovery deck, if it's within the number range, or the world deck if not. Before the last Colossus, you also have to retire all of your fighters on backup. The Colossus battle marks the climax of your quest, where your new team will fight to free the captive from the Colossus to earn fame. The Colossus, unlike travelers during recruitments, is a team of multiple fighters, the first of which is always the captive, followed by minions, then ending with the master. You'll have to defeat all of the Colossus's fighters in the same battle to finish your quest. Since you'll be fighting multiple fighters, the battling rules are slightly different. The battle ends when all of one team's fighters are defeated. When one of your challengers is defeated, it is too injured to continue fighting, so it retires and goes to the village. Then you have to pick a fighter from your team to become your new challenger. When one of your opponent's challengers is defeated, the next fighter on his team, according to the setup, becomes the new challenger. Challengers take turns attacking, so even if a challenger defeats itself, next turn it's still the other player's turn. If you defeated all of your opponent's fighters without losing all of your own fighters on your team, you beat the quest! The captive, in its gratuity, joins your team and you earn fame equal to the number of the quest you are on. In addition, you may now retire any number of the fighters on your team for fame equal to their worths without subtracting 2 like normal, since they've proven themselves in battle. On the last quest, make sure to retire all of your fighters, including the captive. You've beaten the game, and there's no need for fighting anymore. The fighters on your team that were defeated in the battle were severely injured and retired back to the village. Instead of earning fame from those retirements, starting on the third quest, you lose fame equal to the worth of each fighter that was defeated in the Colossus battle. If after that you have negative fame, your journey is over and you lose the game. The Colossus battle phase comes to an end with you returning the cards from the Colossus to the Colossus deck. Move on to the preparation phase, and after that start the traveling phase of the next quest. If all the fighters on your team are defeated, even if you defeated the last of your opponent's fighters on the same turn, you lost the battle and you lose fame equal to the number of the quest you were on times 2, regardless if it's one of the first 2 quests. If you ever have negative fame in the game, your journey is automatically over and you lose the whole game. Also, on the last quest, if you lose, then the game is over no matter what. If your remaining fame is not negative, you will get back all fighters from the village, skip the rewards and consequences, the captive goes to the world deck or discovery deck, and the cards from the Colossus go back to the Colossus deck. Go through the preparation phase and start the next quest in the traveling phase. Throughout this video I've mentioned the village, so this is just a summary of its properties. Whenever a fighter retires for fame in the preparation phase, or from injuries after the Colossus battle, they go to the village. The fighters in the village are not included when making the discovery deck, but they return to the discovery deck or world deck before each Colossus. You can basically retrieve a fighter from the village by using the train action in the preparation phase to have one of your fighters learn the ways of a veteran in the village. Now you have everything you need to know to play the beginner game of Elemental Challenge. You've beaten the game once you win against the 7th Colossus, but of course, you can take breaks in between the quests. I recommend playing the beginner game until you've beaten it at least once or twice, and until you feel you have a good hang of the game. For the rules in more detail, and for the rules of the full game, there is the rulebook in the description. I will also be coming out with another video soon that will add on to this one to teach you how to play the full game of Elemental Challenge. If you enjoyed playing this game and want to help me, share this video and you can give me feedback at theelementalchallenge@gmail.com.